everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode was recorded on 1/31/2026, and we are here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, awaiting a storm. We'll see what happens. So far, so good as far as not having the blowout that was predicted a week ago. Hasn't started snowing yet. It is 11:25 in the morning. So we're going to see how bad it gets here through the day, through the night, which is when it's supposed to be at its worst. So we can let you guys know later how we fared. But so far, so good here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, for this little big nor'easterish snow event. So today,
I now open this circle within true benevolence with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time.
So today's show, because he's preempting, because Chris is really nervous right now because he has no idea what we're going to talk about. So I have not spoken one word to Chris about what this topic is going to be, and he's afraid I'm going to say something, so he's opening it up early. But what I wanted to tell you at first is that we decided to go out like a bunch of people did this morning to go have some breakfast before the snow event. And we went to Cracker Barrel, which we enjoy having breakfast there every now and then. So that was nice. And like I've been trying to encourage everybody to do is just to have conversation with regular people. Today we had a waitress that every now and then on the weekend, if we go there, it seems we've run into the same person every time.
Doris, yes.
And as I was telling Chris, I really like her for some reason. I really like her. And she's very attentive, very nice person. Just the way she interacts with, all the people. And I think she's been doing this for quite a while, but just a lovely, lovely person. And so, she checks on us several times and everything. Well, interestingly enough, at the end of the conversation, we were talking because she's from the area. I'm from the area. Obviously, we're expecting a big winter storm, talking about the historics of that, because 2 to 3 years ago, we had a very mild winter. This is not something that happens all the time here. And so we were talking, and it was a very interesting discussion because then it seemed to morph into more of the conspiratory side. And I find it very interesting because just in every day-to-day conversations, people can find themselves drifting and hearing from other people that they're just talking about wonderings about what's going on, wonderings about what's behind the scene, wonderings about this, that, and the other, and obviously concerns for the next generation and things like that. So I thought it was very, very interesting that this conversation even arose, but it gave at least me the opportunity, to kind of state certain belief systems that we ponder about, as well as basically saying, what we need to do is we need to not agree to certain things and we need to look forward. And she's like, I'm really concerned about my grandchildren and their experiences. Well, we need to spend some time focusing basically on what we want to occur, not all the bad things that are occurring. So this was just one of those moments, again, a very random conversation. I have to tell you that in all honesty, in the whole concepts of like energies coming together, what you may find when you're just meeting random people is that some people seem to be quite friendly to you and open, others may not. What you may start to find is that those that are quite open and friendly toward you may share some of the same thought processes because you're in the same frequency of thought processes. And so again, I just like to encourage people to not be afraid to just gingerly have conversation with people, but again, remind people that, we should be thinking about what we want to occur, not all just dwelled up on negativity that is occurring. So we have to spend some time co-creating what we want, which is bringing attention to the things we don't, making sure that we know about it so that we can energetically also do something about it. So that was very random that happened this morning. Again, I left there going, I like her even more than I thought I liked her before, and hope to see her again. And maybe we'll talk about something a little bit different, even if it's only for a minute. But I just want to, again, encourage people not to be afraid to engage in just regular conversation and see where it goes. And just, again, build consensus with whom you're talking about the things you want to see for yourself and for the future generations. And so I just wanted to put that plug out there because it was such a very pleasant surprise. And these types of surprises, at least for me, are happening more and more as, not being afraid to broker, the truth of what appears to be going on in front of our own eyes. So I just encourage you guys to do that. The other thing I want to say is I don't have a stitch of makeup on. I forgot all about that. And so
Nobody cares.
no one cares. But anyway, just so that everybody understands, this is what I look like, completely au naturel. Again, not that I really have a lot on, maybe a little bit of mascara or something. But I was like, Chris, I have no makeup on. And he's like, who cares? No one cares. I'm like, okay, then that's all I needed to hear. So this is, again, don't be afraid to be your genuine, authentic, and au natural self. And so here we are today, a kind of recording. So with that, again, now I'm ready. Let's go ahead and do kind of our opening little prayer to get this thing going, and then I'll talk about what we're going to talk about.
Mhm.
So we are all one. When one is helped, all are helped. Let natural, genuine, and organic unity lead the way, and it will make us all stronger. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, and our loved ones to let healing energies in. Let them love us, let them nourish us, and let them bring us to our highest good. We ask for benevolence to come in now with no conflicting agenda so that we may have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for malevolent and mischievous type beings to be swept away so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say, so be it.
And so be it.
So, this is the conversation we're going to have today. I look forward to it, and it should be interesting to see who actually comes in to have this discussion. So, over the years, we have spoken many times about what we call the perceived oversoul. You've heard us talk about it, you've heard us bring it up, you've heard whatever. And I've listened through all that conversation for years and years and, put in my 2 cents worth, but mostly hanging back because there were in my mind incongruencies of information that were being said and things that just did not make sense. Now, I am always open to the conversation, and I do believe that with the new information that we and others try to bring in, that we can only handle this information where we are at with where our understandings are and how our brain will interpret it, as Chris says, the encoding and decoding of information. And I completely agree on that. So I want to rehab this conversation on a slightly different level. So what I would label this, Chris may choose something out, is the weird and wacky world of the Oversoul. And so that would be, kind of where I'm getting at, because a lot of things for me, there is conflicting information. And I'll give you one example right now. So, are we to believe that everything happens all at once? That we're in a state truly, we have created time in the expression that we are currently living in to have a point A to point B to point C to point D type of experience. Maybe in other types of expressions, time isn't that fundamental and it could be done a different way. I'm open to that, that's fine. But one of the things that's been reiterated over and over and over again is that literally everything, past, present, future, is happening all at once, all the time. So, also has been reiterated that we, all of us, are a piece of an oversoul, and that what we should be concerned about is our current present moment situation, meaning me sitting here right now talking to you, Chris being right here. And we should be concerned with our current present moment self, which begs the conversation again and the clarity. So who's having all of these other experiences that are simultaneously happening? And if you believe in reincarnation, what does that mean? Because reincarnation is somehow on a concept of a time, of a linear, of something like that going on, number one. And number two, when people talk about their past lives, and I've had this past life, that doesn't even make sense if you have this statement, because I'm here, right now. I'm not there, right now. So these are kind of the conversations that I wanted to bring up, because I believe there's more information to try and understanding these concepts. And a lot of things don't make sense. Now, I do believe in the concept of the totality of the library of the Oversoul. And I think, we could be going to the library and reading it, or we could be visiting other timelines and seeing things. Maybe we are seeing things, and maybe we are misinterpreting again what we're seeing as a past life as something currently going on. I don't know. We're going to have that conversation today. But I just have to say flat out that for years, in my humble opinion, this conversation needs to be spoken about more right now, because there is incongruent information that just doesn't logically make sense.
And everything they don't doesn't jive with what people know about past lives and things of this nature. Even though technically it's all parallel, you've heard that before. There's also a running joke saying it's all relative time. It's a running joke at the moment. But there was a statement made many years ago. I saw on the show Sightings when I was a kid, where the host Tim White said reincarnation basically didn't seem feasible because there were more past lives, more than everyone that ever lived, ever in history. It didn't compute. And this, but people that are thinking about this are thinking linear. They're not thinking multiverse. So therefore, there would be an infinite amount of possibilities for expressions, even within the little timeline branches that you happen to be in. There's still some that coexist within the same identical cluster as you currently. And so if you can't accomplish one thing, the Oversoul will do it a different way. And for me, that seems unfair, because if you're trying to accomplish a goal, what are you picking up on? Are you picking up on what the Oversoul wants? Are you picking up on what a parallel universe version of you is doing in a different world line? Are you picking up on something you currently have to be doing within your current portion, let's just say, of that soul mission? You don't know, and you're not really meant to know unless you're back in the library itself. The incongruencies in this is, how can I put this? Okay, I'm going to be more general with this, but I'm saying something specific, but I'm not going to rub salt in the wound. There was somebody that we ran into not too long ago that was giving some incongruent information with other information that's been put out. The SSPers follow this as well to a certain extent, and I'm not dumping on them, but that falls under the multiverse as well and other expressions. Was that them, or was it another expression within the library? That's a debate that's going on. But this other person was giving information that I knew did not jive with what the galactic history was that we have been told. Then I've seen others that match close, but then that's the person's own interpretation of that, those set of events. I always say, it's the same set of, it's not a bunch of truths. It's the same set of information being interpreted a million different ways. If it does not jive, it's either V2K screwing with them or some such thing like that, or it's not true at all. Or anything later, some other being is messing with them. So there's a bunch of information that's also been filtered out there via that technology that is trying to make everything incongruent. And one of the biggest things, and I am sorry to say this, one of the biggest things is the past life area, where some try to tell you were always this important figure all the time. And then when you ask why are there so many of this person saying they're this important figure, they say, oh, you're tapping into that energy, therefore Yeah, therefore, yes, you are living as that person through like a time slip or a through some kind of hive mind. There are people that have called that a V2K hive mind or a nano hive mind. That came up in a recording recently where it's part of a hive mind, and this goes a little bit into this. The inconsistencies are you weren't that person. You were you. You are you now. The expression for now. You've slipped into this other hive mind bit, and I'll use that other person's term because it seems to fit. And because you were so badly either wanting to be that person, or you picked up on some, or another psychic told you they were this, you were this, and they did not interpret that as you. They were just happened to see this energy around you. Their mind encoding, decoding said, oh, this important person. Therefore, now you're connecting to that person and you're connecting to all the problems that came with it. And then via you just accepting that karma, you were bringing all that crap into the here and now. Now, I'm not saying some of you aren't these important people. Of course, those people are going to come about. Those souls are going to come about now. It's like I had a past life as Ivar Ragnarsson and the pirate Jose Gaspar. We said that in a previous show. But does that mean that you take all the traits and bring them around? No. Does that mean that there's 100 people that figure? No, like a pharaoh, like Ramses or any of them. Does that mean that all of you were all that person? No, you're tapping into that library of energy. That's somebody else's oversoul, but it's in the Akashic record. So you are picking up on that. Does it mean you need to take that path on? Absolutely not. It does not.
And that's where I am because, he said, well, but I think I was this and this. I'm like, and I'm simply like, and please tell me how that can happen. Because if everything is happening all at once, then all those people are living now. Now I can believe that the oversoul is having all these experiences.
Yes, doesn't
think
mean
of a
you have
tree
to.
that's getting ready to pollinate, and all of a sudden it bursts forth. If you think of all of the little pieces of pollen and being a new experience that the oversoul is having, true. Can you potentially tap into it? Yes. Can you potentially feel that that's you? Of course you could, because you are a part of the oversoul, and it is the oversoul having that experience. But technically, are you exactly the same here and now and there as the same being part of the oversoul at the same time? Because it's not, this is not a time issue.
Or like when I do past life rewrites, for instance, when you've heard me talk about that, where I change the narrative. What am I doing? Connecting to a different timeline, knowing that person, say, was a particular person, connecting them to a different outcome. Therefore, something changes here. It's all multiverse.
And then the question again becomes, because we do believe that there are sometimes entanglements from things that are happening elsewhere that are needing to come to your attention for now.
And correct here.
So my question is, let's just use those timelines. I say timelines, but those examples that you just brought up, even for yourself. So how is that relevant to you now? How is that? Is it because there's an energetic tapping in? Is there the oversoul having a preferential wanting to have a dominance of whatever that person is, and they've actually fed it, bled it into the current present moment avatar, and it actually is causing a problem?
Yes, just like on any past lives, like say you had a past life that cast a spell saying all future lifetimes would have to be a certain way. That was their particular perspective they were trying to enforce, which may not apply to this time frame.
But the question really is, there and here now, all at the same time, with all of these different lives. So this is kind of where I am at. And so I'm the one actually, wanting this conversation, because whatever is going to be said is the next onion layer of information regarding the subject. So first of all, the question being, is the statement true? Everything's happening all at once. Is that a true statement? Yes or no? Be interesting to find out. Number two, can the avatar have the exact same person, piece of itself, in all these multiple expressions? Meaning that, yeah, I am that person over there too. Or is it something a little bit different going on?
Yeah, just like say with the time travel programs. At that point, When you were put into, say, a 20 and back, that is when the Oversoul decided to make another expression of itself, no different than these other expressions. For you to drag that back into this time frame, unless it is meant to be here to uncover a truth, unless that Oversoul had decided, okay, I'm going to go fishing for this information, I'm going in there to correct this. I'm going in there specifically to correct this, and therefore what is needed is another expression of self there. Then it is not always necessary to bring that back if it's causing this over amount of trauma that's being loosed off. There was a quote by Thorsden that came through the other day that I think just described this situation. Not all horrors need an audience. And that one rang true, because now, am I saying hold back if you are meant to bring this forward? No. If that is the path by which then you came in to do, you will know this in here, that is what you're here to do. But to say that everyone is meant to do it is asinine. You cannot say that. Say that was another expression of self, and you're pulling off of that. You are now linking to a vibration that then, if that was a stronger torsion field for what the vibratory frequency that it was in, will trickle over here. Now, if you're meant to, again, reintegrate, great. But not every single person was meant to go through that, because you're going to find that every single person on this planet is targeted to some degree, to some level. And not everyone was meant to go through this unless spirit aligned, like all the planets aligned, everything aligned right to where that person heard that bit of information by which then that torch is passed to open a door a little further to bring everything out in the open, because all truth has to be out in the open eventually. And people can't circle the toilet. Yes, that is how it is done. But if you are forcing that open for other people, saying, oh, they have to just wake up, you're following an old template. You're following a new age template by which the government put it in place to divide, saying awake and unawake, or awake and asleep. And many people will be shocked that I've said that. But yes, are there those, because of nano intrusions, V2K and everything, that have been dumbing? We talked about the dumbing before from both chemical and psionic and nanotech and all that. You've heard me say that ad nauseum. Yes, but no amount of calling them unawake is going to actually wake them up. The thing of it is, they're not asleep to begin with, they're being oppressed. There is a difference there. The ones that have shut that technology off within themselves with their own psionic field are the ones that get hit more, because you're sticking your head above the dumbing, both psionic and chemical. So you're becoming more immune, therefore you're getting hit more. It does not mean that like a religious icon, or like a priest or some Jehovah's Witness, where you're now on this holy mission to go in and wake everyone up. One of the biggest misnomers, and I'll sidetrack just for a second, one of the biggest misnomers was a meme I saw a couple years back, and I wish I could find this. I cannot find it in my collection. If I do, I'll put it somewhere. But I'll use it as an example. It was, now everyone will hang their heads in shame when they realize they were wrong within the Great Awakening. Folks, there is no such thing as a Great Awakening. The only thing that would apply to this event was if you were able to shut off all the nanotech, all the garbage, all the dumbing, all at once, everything everywhere all at once. And the most that would happen that come out of it, it wouldn't be like this big kumbaya. It would be, people would be restored to the state they would be unoppressed. It doesn't mean they're not a dickhead, so they showed that in Star Trek in Return of the Archon. So they shut off all of the oppressive AI. The first thing that happened is some people got into brawls with each other. It wasn't that they were awakened, it would return to a normal state. Now, how does that apply to the energy in the Oversoul? The Oversoul then will have then gone past whatever it is the people were supposed to learn from that, or the Oversoul is trying to learn from that, going on to the next stage. It doesn't mean they're awakened. It means that and also they're more connected. Yes, does that mean that, it restores to a normal state of them, their perception of spirit being disrupted? Yes, but does it mean that they're meant to automatically go, or go into some ascension timeline? And for that, you don't want to kill yourself, because that's what you're essentially saying by ascension. Now, how does it again apply to Oversoul? The Oversouls, with their infinite diversity and infinite combinations, are still going to experience what they're going to experience when they're going to experience it. It's not that everybody's going to be agreeing on the same page. It doesn't mean that everybody is going to be singing Kumbaya around a rainbow colored campfire. It does not mean this. It means that life goes on and you have to accept the differences of all these other people and the missions of these oversouls. They may have come in with a totally different methodology on how to take care of something. It doesn't always mean it's good or bad, or all in between. That's like the whole Darth Vader premise, where he came in to destroy, to rebalance the Force. He destroys the Sith and the Jedi. Everybody's like, "Oh, we misinterpreted the prophecy." Yeah, because you don't comprehend things in this on this level that the totality of the Oversoul is doing. You're here playing your part. You're in your lane. When you cross into someone else's lane thinking that you are converting it, you're no different than one of those religious figures trying to convert the heathens. You are no different. Left, right, indifferent, woke, religious, Christian don't matter. When you're trying to copy and paste your way onto someone else, you have become no different than any of the oppressors of the past, and you're also not allowing the diversity and flow of the different oversouls to exist everywhere all at once. Now, the biggest misnomer of all time with this is, how can I word this? Should I be correcting the dimensions and expressions that I'm looking at? Should I interfere or should I not? Now, if it is detrimental to yourself that you're having to reground and you're having to block certain things, and maybe another expression of you is doing another darker version of Oversoul, like you saw in Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange. Yeah, I've seen it 1,000 times. Fix that, but doesn't mean you a guide. And you've heard me say this before, and I got to keep saying this. It does not mean that your shadow work is somehow those other dimensions. Now, with certain past lives, if they are intrusive to changing your personality here, if there's a severe bleed through and it's a mirroring, what you've heard me talk about, by all means, you're supposed to correct a cycle that maybe something went wrong here and you're having to correct it here, caused a great fall, therefore bringing about a great lifting. That should flow to the next thing as you're going. You trying to correct some of these other dimensions when you were not truly called to do so, because it was not intrusive to begin with here, you have no business doing that, because you could be screwing something else up in the great tapestry out there on the Exegol tree. You could be screwing something else royal, and it's no different than connecting. If you want to watch the GIC shows we did on the parallel universes and lingering too long, and which could cause demonic intrusions, so go look at Galactic Interversal Consortium and the Tronverse. But with this, it is not your job just to connect automatically to all of these other expressions and act as some kind of guide, because what, you're the epitome of enlightenment here? Let that expression do its thing, and if they get killed as a result, you're not your brother's keeper at that point. Now, could other guides that you have be other expressions of you in the multiverse? That is also a misnomer. 9 times out of 10, that is a no. But that is a rumor that's floating around. Are they doing the same for you? Because you might be affecting them. True. But could our psionics be affecting galactics and interdimensionals? Absolutely. But is it our business to meddle because we're having to wake beings up or people up? Or is it, here's another misnomer, is it our job to change the cosmos in our image? No, that is an Anunnaki premise. We were created in God's image, Enlil, Enki, Anu, all of them. It is not our job to give codexes to the rest of the universe, because the Oversouls somehow don't know what the hell they're doing for those different civilizations. You could have an expression there too, as your Oversoul. Does it mean that you don't stay in your lanes? No, you were probably there. That Oversoul's probably trying to bring about something, some kind of unity or some kind of correction from spirit. Also, it doesn't mean that the Oversouls knows what it's doing half the time too. Sometimes they could have several dark expressions and you're getting all these creepy bleed throughs, And then you have your own oversoul that's trying to bring in a paradox, the is and is nots in the same expression. Like what Hajamal was saying, he said my oversoul was a little retarded because of the SSP thing. It was an is and is not right in the same expression. Oh, we'll try this and let's super glue these together. Sometimes the oversouls fail at these. That is a misnomer as well. What is it that you're experiencing? Are you experiencing you that is pertinent to what you need to do, or are you just tapping into a library and you're bringing through all this crapola that you don't need to be bringing through? This is also the question you have to discern. And also, as of the time of this recording, we were also told they're hitting the heart space pretty heavily right now. And that seems to be a premise. They go for here. They try to get like the Martian Germans. They try to weed all that garbage out. Also, what is really heavily needing to be discerned is over whom are you speaking to? Because there's a premise that if you're hearing the good cop, bad cop, and I heard this on a recording yesterday, if you're hearing the good cop, bad cop routine with different guides, that is actually the nanotech and the V2K screwing with you to keep you in a carrot and a stick rotation. I couldn't agree more with that, because I've heard in the middle of the night two beings, one saying, "Oh, let's help this guy," and the other one the superior officer saying, "Oh no, let's not. Let's do this. Let's do that." And I was like, "Stop arguing." Sometimes that's been interpreted as V2K. Sometimes it is galactic. But the thing of it is, you must discern whom you are speaking to, and it is imperative that you are not parroting what V2K and these agencies are saying. I don't care how correct that information sounds. You go with intuition. It could have some truth thread to it and spill a bunch of yield in with it. The same goes for sometimes galactics will test you to a certain extent to see if you are truly discerning. It is obnoxious to the extreme and the max, but when you get to a certain discernment level, you are going to start to see these people that thought they were tapping into Oversoul were tapping into nothing but nanoclusters. So that, and the reason I bring this up is, why are there Oversouls experiencing this? They could be experiencing that to undo it, to make it so that there's more of an immunity factor here. You don't know what that person's path is. Now maybe you're there to help with that individual, to help correct this, or to find out where spirit is pushing you towards. Another misnomer is spirit really pushing you towards something, or is it a false path? You have false synchronicities, that you see certain songs on a radio and you know spirit's doing it, and then the liars can do that too. Don't always follow all the synchronicities. Follow intuition. If intuition says don't look at this, don't look at it. If intuition's guiding you towards something, of course, and then mix that with logic and you turn it into critical thinking. You have to ground heavily now, and you have to make sure you have the correct information. I have been going through, and you can see, and I said this on a previous show. If you look down in the corner there, you see I have YouTube at the Lifting Presents down there. I have been rigorously going through these and vetting. And if people want to go through and you think something feels funky, you let me know. And I will go and check it out, because I have not 100% gone through. I have been putting up the old information, and I know I've probably missed one or two things. So if you want to do me a favor and do that, go ahead. But how does this apply to this? Because that was the journey that we took as we were learning that, as the journey, the Oversoul, going from more of a New Age premise into more of a mix of both healthy skepticism and intuition, grounding that I am presence in the here and now, and taking the benefits of the Oversoul, benefits of the Avatar, and grounding it in the I am presence. That's I know it's a mouthful. Changing perspectives and perceptions. That's what that was. It went from something that was slightly more loose on my part to something that was more firm. It was a timeline or set thereof. That's how and some of it smells funky to me now. And do I regret doing it? Absolutely, in some areas with certain information you'll probably never see. But my point is, what are you connecting to? What are you bringing through? Any people that are doing this type of work, you must look over what you are teaching people. You must look over what you are saying to people and whom do you serve? Whom are you serving? Who are you bringing that information in? Which God are you serving? Which entity are you serving? What is discernment? You can't take everything as sacrosanct. You have to question. You can't just say, "Thy will be done."
So I
Yeah.
think let's get back to the subject at hand,
Yes.
which is having to do again with the wild and wacky world of the Oversoul.
Well, this is part of the wild, wacky world of the Oversoul.
True. But in the basics level, which is really, I think we're going to review the basics, kind of the basics today. The reason I say that is because you said something interesting that I'm like, just so if everyone hasn't realized, Chris and I don't agree on everything. So, I'm a little bit more simplistic in certain thought processes. And so to me, why is the Oversoul doing all of this? Well, the first answer that comes to my mind is because it can.
Mhm.
And so, in the exploration of maybe potentially, who knows, have to find out when I reach in the Oversoul, of just curious, is there anything more to learn to have all these wild and wacky experiences, maybe with a premise, maybe not with a premise, just to have an experience to maybe add to the collective of all the known information to say, is there more to learn? Is there more? Is there more of different perspective? Is there more? So the one premise that I think originally would say was related to the source of all things in a concept. I relate the same thing to the Oversoul and the concept of, well, I can cut my pie into all kinds of different ways just to see if that information is there. So I know that part of the conversation is it's just done because I can and I'm going to kind of thing. And again, putting, let's just refer to ourselves as avatars. The avatar part, because you can't contain in one body the entire Oversoul. So you're going to forget. You're going to just be a piece and plugged in, having a feedback loop, almost like the Matrix. The Matrix is your Oversoul. But, when you do all of these things and have that feedback loop of what life you're going through, again, so it comes down to the concept. Is there such thing as a past life where the exact same piece is in multiple places? Or is it the fact that you have gained the ability to look at the main library, has a seer gain the ability to look at the main library, and even in their lack of understanding, that they assume it must be the same exact piece of the soul having multiple experiences when they're actually looking at the totality of the Oversoul's library, and no one has quite down pat what each piece is.
Mhm.
If it's independent and autonomous, not to be exact to another one, and multiple again experiences happening at one time. I could certainly say by if you have the ability to tap into your own library, how it will all seem to be you. I get that because you're part of that Oversoul.
Mhm.
But again, I think it's important to have these conversations because again, there is an importance to knowing it so that we can ground correctly in the lifetime that we are.
Mhm. And now, are there those that are meant to be here to be a slight uh, different intermediary? Yeah, like a good example is Mark Wahlberg's Infinite, where they remember the totality of their lifetimes.
But isn't
I've
that
seen
part
that
of-
too.
Wouldn't that be part of an experience of an oversoul to see, I wonder if any of these guys are going to try to figure out the big picture. Fine. Isn't that a part of the experience?
And they
of all it is?
showed in the movie a big library they were all accessing, so that was symbolic
So
of that.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that even the growth that people are going through, the pondering that people are going through, that is current present moment pondering of maybe putting out that desire of having the experience of trying to just know more about what is bigger of me and understanding versus just the avatar experience that I'm having. But part of the avatar experience that I'm having is wanting to garner more of the information about what is, which is what we're all about. That's what we're doing, and we try to share the information. So I'm kind of a little bit more simplistic. Let's get the basics down, and let's review this. But the question is again, who is the best person to talk about it? My humble opinion, it's not someone flesh and blood, be it in any type of way. How would they know? So I didn't know who was out there that would be more representative, in a position of being more representative of the totality of their individual library, to be able to more accurately have it. Because it seems to me, a flesh and blood, no matter what frequency you're at, having your own little avatar experience would not be the right person.
But I also noticed, though, that with Grand Library, like I've always said, it's like an electrical plant with a substation house. We're house level. Then you have sometimes that intermediary where they're in between, where they have more access to this, like an avatar for. Then you have this big totality of the library. Now I've noticed like beings like Isaac, he remembered a totality of his lifetimes, like in Infinite. And then Elena Bessa, they say things like, these are all flesh and blood, but they say things like, yes, we remember this, but this is relevant, this is not relevant. Like when you hit a certain frequency, you have the ability to flow with those memories. Memories is frequency, frequency is memory. So, like what the forest people say. Now, with spirit, you would get the totality of that flow. Sorry about the camera, folks. It likes to, when energies start to flow more, it does this. And that's classic paranormal behavior where the camera will do that weird, focus, defocus thing. That's classic when there's energy movement, it will do that. So if you see that happen, the lens is actually seeing something we're not. And so it's classic paranormal. People's doorbell cams get this a lot too. So, and surveillance cameras and everything. So it's no different with this. So I honestly don't know who is going to speak. I just know the energy is building, the conduit's building. So I'm going to check here real fast. Who are you, please? Person in the jeans and t-shirt. Who are you, please? I have a hard time seeing you. Gotta make sure here. Group announced no conflicting agendas at this moment in time. Boy, and Lil, you're bound and determined to talk sometimes, so out. Ugh. All right, let's see. Ouch. I'm all for giving people their time, but not him. All right, go. All right, come on. No, Lena Vest, not you? All right.
No, something bigger. So you need to shrink down so we can see you.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, we can feel it, most definitely. At least let me hear you. Yes, I hear you. And I'm wearing the hood again, so it cancels out V2K, and these work incredibly well, by the way. I would suggest this if you do channeling. Yes, you look like a monk, but okay. Who's walking around out there? Wow, that's hard to distinguish today. Okay, let's dig a little deeper here. I sense a lot of eyes. Uh, I need one voice to come forward, please. One voice that's spirit world, if you don't mind.
Up the ladder a little.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is tough. That is tough to distinguish, folks.
Which would make sense because you're dealing with potentially something that's having multiple experiences all at the same time.
Yes. So I don't care which oversoul it is, as long as you're truly benevolent and have no conflicting agendas. I do not.
Well, you're not in some crazy paradox state.
Yeah, you're not in some crazy paradox state. That would be a conflicting.
We don't want a whacked out oversoul. Someone who other oversouls feel is somewhat balanced. How about that?
Oh, Ren, can you come forward, please? Step forward, so I can see you a little clearer. There are two of you. I believe I'm seeing one of them is Frank Frazetta, and the other one is, can't remember your name. I am sorry. Edward Hicks, the painter. There's another two of you here. Who are you and you? The one in the back, can you please step forward? I'm getting a vibe here. Hang on. Will you be talking? No. You're just here for support? Okay. Okay. Which figurehead of your Oversoul wishes to speak? Uh, there's one I'm missing. Okay. Who are you? A lot of you're building more and more of a protection wall here. So, uh, Frank, do you want to talk? Not this time. Okay. Okay. Is this one of my family members? Uh-huh. Is this my grandfather? As in Bob Stainovich? Yes. Okay. You don't particularly look happy, but okay.
Great. Well, then why is that? Before you connect, why are you not happy? Which makes no sense.
Spirit,
Makes no sense.
spirit, your benevolent spirit, please wash anything away that is not for our highest good at the moment. Wow, that is a jumble. Folks, if even with this on, I am having a very tough time distinguishing that. I can see you, Frank, most definitely. Okay, I'm just going to call on a specific one then. All right. To my true benevolent grandfather, Bob Stainovich. Oh, please step forward. Camera's reacting to that. That's very interesting. So, and I'm not really moving around very much. So, oh, that is strong. Okay. There are several of you sitting around the fire pit here. And you're keeping something else out. Okay. All right. I'm gonna chance this one. So,
You can, because you know what it is right now, which is probably how it should be, an extreme calm.
yeah.
And so if you're able to feel this, and some people can feel this through here, there's been a definitely change in the energy and teasing through some of this. This is more what you would expect the energy to be, an extreme analam calm.
Yeah, there are several spirit. The spirit is all over the place out here. It's building the energy very, very up. And if I'm not mistaken, the tall one in the back there is Isaac. All right. You're not going to talk ever again, are you? No. Okay.
You just did.
Other than that, you're not going to do this ever again, are you?
Don't ever say never.
Joking. Okay. No, it's all doom. No. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if anybody could feel the process we just went through, going through this, I think that's important. I think feeling your way through this, no one should be upset. If you're asking for someone at that level to have a serious conversation, being upset is more of an unbalanced reaction, and you don't want that.
No. And also some of these beings that we work with, if they're upset, I mean, the flesh and blood ones, if they're upset, of course, they're having normal reactions, but I think they have more of a handle on those.
Well, they may not be high enough up.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. They're still dealing with stuff. And this is a conversation, I think, at least for me personally, I wanted to have it a slightly different, okay, let's talk kind of calm conversation.
Okay. To my grandfather, are you present, please? I know he's right there, but I got to be able to see him. How can I see you and not him? Okay. There we are. Ooh, you're really messing with the camera today. Okay. All right. Sorry, folks, if it keeps doing that. They're doing that. Okay. Newer technology seems to be something that I can fiddle with easier. So, like that at least. So, okay. The column has been said because the energies, as far as you knowing about these particular concepts, such as your V2K, your nano intrusions, things of this nature, are regrouping to try to accumulate or congregate in a section to make it more dense to where you cannot or feel you cannot connect with spirit, which is impossible not to dull your perception that of spirit. Spirit is always around in every corner of everything everywhere all at once. Why would you think for a moment that that can be snuffed out, that light can be snuffed out? It cannot and never will. That to not sound cliche, but the light of creation kind of thing, let there be light. Um, to be more accurate is more of a balancing act with the different oversouls, as Frank here would put it. You know, the mission he was on, he took the favorite parts of that, the Avatar, and brought them back to the Oversoul and created Frazetta World or Land or whatever the hell he's calling it. Cool is really what it is, but damn right, yes, I know. But with this and Edward Hicks, your paintings became your world. And Isaac, I'm not quite sure what you created, but we'll just say it's weird.
Eccentric.
Eccentrically weird. Yes. Weird, the word weird, though, was more of a teaching and more of a cool thing. Now they've aligned it with odd or misplaced, but those people in society have always been the ones to kind of reform things and change things. So, like he did in a big way. Yes, I know, still doing all, yeah. Anyway, he's not refusing to talk. It's just that this is going to sound mean, but he didn't want you to feel as though you were turning him into a crutch. So, and he didn't feel that way in life either, but he's only around as more of an emotional support, let's just say emotional support stuffed animal or something like that, or guide dog or something. But anyway, um, but what I'm trying to get at is the congruency of which you speak. Sometimes it applies to other aspects of the multiverse that don't make sense here because it is not of this place. Then sometimes it's an outright lie, and it is sometimes an outright non-necessity to access. You do your thing, you do you. And if you is actually accessing and bringing some of this in to here, great, because that connection is supposed to be more solid. But it doesn't mean you're going to ascend. That just means you die here. Now, why would you want that if you're here to experience? No. You have to ground, and you're grounding that information. But it does not mean that it is always a necessity to do it a particular way. Yes, a particular way means you're accessing that and automatically grounding, and it is mirroring in the places it's supposed to mirror, or access those people can access those little fires of information and actually become immune to, say, some of the oppression that's around. Yes, like an immune system or an antibody, absolutely. They call it codexes, but then, oh, you're doing that for the rest of the galaxy. The as above, so below. No, you are not imprinting that on the rest of the galaxy, but it is an as above, so below where it changes here, changes there, changes there, changes here. And in other parts of the multiverse. Of course, of course, of course. Holding the space, like he sees that Loki figure in that series doing. But no, there's so many misnomers. There's so many things that you should access and so many things that you should not because they belong somewhere else. You have to distinguish what belongs here. Just because another group is doing it doesn't mean that you should be doing it. Just because somebody is teaching it as truth doesn't mean that they have all the answers. Just because there is information not being seen doesn't mean that it does not hold more truth. You see what I'm saying? So it's not, it is what it is, but it is, in fact, how can I put this? Even though there's everything everywhere at once, it doesn't mean that you have to access every moment. It doesn't mean that the soul does not remember. The soul always remembers. The soul remembers. Always. Where? Not to be un-Jedi-like in this way. Where, say, if you had SSP memories, of course there's some things that need to be brought into the now so it shows the oppression. But if you understood how many people actually truly went through this, you would go, oh, I guess there are other lanes in this and other arms. If you knew what those Oversoul's missions truly were, you don't know why that person is here. You don't know why that soul is here. Why would you want to interfere with that? You don't know why they are doing what they're doing. Sometimes it can be stupid. Sometimes it is being perceived as stupid because it does not match why you came in. Or if there's a cycle to complete in with another person, by all means do so, but allow it to organically come to that point of resolution. So I will just go into questions.
So first of all, to give perspective of whom I am speaking to.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, in my mind, there are oversouls, okay, distinct individual oversouls. And those oversouls, again, I think of it like the tree that bursts forth all of its pollen, is having a multitude and has decided to have a multitude of experiences all the time. And again, getting the feedback loop of those experiences. That's a simple thing that I'm just saying yes or no. You do agree with that kind of simplistic thought process of how it works. Yes. Okay. What I'm asking then is, where are you on the rung of that? Because I was always thought that maybe we could never completely talk to the true totality of it all, like our frequencies were too different, it wouldn't work. So like, I don't know how you would compare, like how far am I down on the rung versus how far down are you from the rung of being the totality of everything?
I am the expression that was or is his grandfather.
Okay.
Yes, I am the library, as is Frank, favoring an expression or a face that that we can present to you. You are not literally accessing every book at every moment in the multiverse. That's impossible.
But neither are you right now, right?
No, I am as I was here.
Okay.
With more knowledge as to the library.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the library's way of selecting that book for him to read. And for that the Oversoul to communicate via those pages, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So is it true, first of all, the statement that if I try to reach, there's only a certain part of the library that I can literally access, the totality of myself, the frequency differential of where it is versus where I am is too great?
It's far too great. This is why you are here as an intermediary. You always heard the term medium. Because he always says you're dealing with two completely different operating systems here. You need a go-between. How is someone supposed to read that book in a dimension where The book is not in a language you can see or understand. Or if you, he always equates it to like an adapter. Like if you take an American adapter to England, it won't work, and vice versa. You need a go-between. Why do you think people are born to cross ghosts over? Why do you think that people are born
Right.
to do things of this nature? Because you need that intermediary on the earthly plane or Midgard to bring that direction and to have the flow this direction through like a, he sees a silver cord-ish type concept as an aqueduct, as a carrying the water from one place to another. And that flow, and he sees disruptions in the flow, that means the perspective of the person has been disrupted by the nano distractions. That's what he is seeing with when he sees stops in the water. Not that the water has stopped flowing, it is because the perceptions of the person have stopped perceiving the flow for what it truly is because of the outer worldly oppressive distractions. Does this make sense?
Yes. So just again, for having perspective of who I am speaking to at this moment, from where you stand, you say you have access to the library, but you say you are certainly not the higher frequency self. So at your perspective right now, this is my question. I guess if I put myself in your shoes, I would say, well, I do have more broad understanding than Joanna, the avatar that's
Mhm.
down. I don't want to say down there, but you know how we see things.
Yes, it's not up
That's-
or down.
Yeah, that's down there. But I can honestly say, I don't know it all. Is that a fair thing to say because you don't have complete total
Yes.
experience of the totality of the oversoul that you belong to?
Yes, exactly. You are interpreting it correctly. And what have I told you? The Oversoul Library does not know it all either. They share information. The two Oversouls can even arm wrestle and bet with each other too. You always say hedge bets with the gods, but at the same time, uh, the not all Oversouls, they might know a same bit of information. They might have shared something, but then they have different ideas of how to implement it and different ideas about how to do things. He saw in a dream years ago with a friend of his when he was on Hartley Street and himself debating on how what they were going to do when they entered this realm, how they were going to implement said information and said things. One was overly skeptical, and he himself as himself. How will we implement this information? You do your way, I do mine. It's just like in your Crow series where you had your Brandon Lee and your Mark Dacascos, where they had different ideas of how the character of Eric Draven should be written. Their interpretation on how the path should go. One saw it as a path of vengeance, and the other one saw it as a path of karma. So, okay, let's implement the character this way. Let's implement the character this way. That's how him and his friend work. This is how sometimes Oversouls operate. They will say, okay, we traded this bit of information. Let's try it my way. You try it your way. This is how these Oversouls tend to operate.
So it is interesting because some people say, this whole concept that this is, is a learning environment isn't true. But I go back to, well, yeah, it has to be because this is all experimentation done from, an oversoul. You just gave a great example from an oversoul experience. But my question then is in the expression that I am speaking to you from this here and now expression, my concept has always been we're trying to change the dynamic of the totality of experiences from one of duality, domination, control things, and we're trying to move into an area that has been almost destroyed and now come back into experience more what it's like to come into a more unity-based, caring, understanding type of experiences. Is there any truth to what I just said at all? As far as an overarching theme of where the oversouls that are putting an avatar in, that we're trying to see, can we move it that way or not?
Yes, certain Oversouls, they will. He calls it the energy shape, wherein somebody incarnates, you can clearly see it's that person, or that Oversoul, or that particular being. And they have an overall plan as to how they're going to implement something. It doesn't matter what avatar they're in. They may have an overall plan Now, can certain family members assist in this plan or enforce a plan too? Yes, and some have taken some of their avatars into other dimensional spaces, or he calls it the Beetlejuice layer of spirit, where they wanted to dictate what certain people did down here. Like he saw that the Campbell family was implementing judgment on one of their descendants because they were a controlled family of the crown. No, that's wrong. That is a form of control mechanism. And then he had to put them all in jars and then had their Oversoul come get them, which I was a fan of, by the way, because that made it so the Oversoul reclaimed some of its shards, let's just say. But as far as an Oversoul goes, and you know the Oversoul did learn from that, of those people. As far as the Oversoul goes, the plan tends to remain the same, no matter which avatar is experiencing said plan. It seems that that particular avatar might go about it a little differently, and also you can change how the Oversoul does some things down here, implements them. It's like you guys saw that time travel series where people were sent back to try to prevent things, but when someone else figured out some workarounds behind it, thought their compartmentalization was stupid, the future kind in that series decided to reprimand or punish. Oh, you didn't follow this plan. Sometimes it doesn't go according to plan because sometimes the Oversoul will put an avatar in place and go, wait a minute, certain things might not have been exactly as we thought. And they have to switch and change and switch trackers as they go on. But the premise is still the same. It's that Traveler series you guys didn't finish, but and then they saw that the facts weren't exactly correct, like somebody's social media platform or profile wasn't right, things of that nature. There's some things that might be slightly off, and it requires someone in this dimension to have boots and eyes on the ground to look. Like he says, like a helicopter pilot versus a soldier. The soldier has to go through the building. The pilot has to look from above and maybe look through the building with infrared or X-ray or something like that. That is how that system operates.
So I guess, again, like we were saying earlier, everything is happening all at once for the Oversoul.
Yes.
So I get back to this basic, simple question. I understand the totality of the library and all the information being there. And if you can access it, I am sure it's going to feel like you.
Yes,
because it is you.
It is.
Thank you. But the avatar, currently me right now, I'm not also the same avatar that the exact same, because why? There's so much more available in Egypt or in other places.
It's called compartmentalization, like the military uses. That one may do something that another one might not do. But it doesn't mean that you don't access those things if it's needed.
No, I get it, because it's the totality of the library. No, I have no issue with that. What I'm trying to say is that it feels like, to me, the word past life is incorrect.
No.
It's not what is happening. It is another experience that the Oversoul is having.
Yes.
At this current present moment.
Yes.
That we may be looking at. And I can see why we would think it is us, but it's not us, is it?
Yes and no. It is actually, both sides are correct in this. It is you, but it isn't you. So when he does his past life rewrites and time jumps, one of them to a different timeline, or has this person here access a different timeline by which then their life goes a different trajectory. Time jumps or timeline jumping happens constantly. Doing one in the past and doing one now makes no difference. You are still assisting somebody with that shadow work. It is still everything happening all at once. If you are tapping into something that maybe has to form a resolution here, sometimes it has to jump then to a different timeline. Therefore, it affects you differently here within that branch. See, so that isn't a bad thing, but it can be overdone too, to where it becomes one. There might be another expression somewhere that may have accessed something that's affecting other branches, and that has to be corrected. That is very not common. The Oversoul itself is usually auditing that and dealing with that. Or you have to yell audit to the Oversoul, and you have to kind of knock on their head a little bit and go, hey, stupid, audit. Because, again, you're here perceiving. He wanted to know why sometimes you had to correct some of those what seemed like outer things, but it's really not all the time. It is because the Oversoul isn't always looking at that and perceiving it, because you're down the rung or down the ladder a little bit too far. Therefore, and then also you had the question years ago, how can a soul become lost? That's how, because the oversoul isn't perceiving all its pieces, but sometimes you can blow a shard.
Well, that was kind of my next question, because so first of all, you'll agree with me that calling something a past life is incorrect terminology.
Yeah, it's incredibly inaccurate. Yes, because of time travel, is there a past, present, future? Yeah, you can say that, because from your perspective, the same thing with the future kind. They would say, yes, they are future kind uh, because they're further ahead in years and time. But are they on your timeline? You see, or are they sitting in another place on the drake tree?
Well, again, we say past, present, and future because we've adapted this concept of time. And so every single thought processes that anybody has will give that as a foundational belief system. That is not true. It's here in our expression, how we're experiencing things, but it's not true at the oversoul level of how things are experienced. Now, I can see utilizing time saying the oversoul put a thread, that they put a thread to, as kind of an, this relates to this, as this relates to this, as this relates to this. That could certainly give a thought process of a past, present, and future, where the future kind would say, you're important because you are, well, it's the thread, the connection.
The connection that is needed here.
You know what I mean? That we daydream that all the time. We create a past, present, and future daydream all the time in our own minds.
Yes.
So I get how that can
And
happen.
you're picking up at other parts of the multiverse too.
Right.
We have told him a few times, don't torture himself by looking at other world lines. Even though there are some beings out there that thought it was necessary, show him this, because he asked the question, where did certain ideas come from? But it is not always healthy.
Right. But the bottom line is, because I don't think we move forward well when we continue to use inaccurate terms. And if we're trying to grow and understand the bigger concept of all this, past lives is not the appropriate way of looking at things.
No.
And so,
Correction.
Right. So we need to actually come up with, a different way of explaining it. It is the oversoul and an experience that the oversoul is having.
Just other expressions of oversoul. There's nothing past or future about it.
Right.
It's all now. So
Right.
It's other expressions of self, other expressions of oversoul. That's really the only way to describe it. Past life, it's because you're putting a year on it.
Right.
And that's why people say that.
It's a perception thing. But technically, again, I know the concept that we are Oversoul, and that technically we can look at the library and it feels all like us. I get all that. That's
Because it is you.
I know. That's the how it is you. What I am trying to say, though, is technically the piece of the oversoul that is me existing right now with the limited memory that I have in my brain, because my brain can't handle it all, right? Is not the same me. If I go and looked at the oversoul and I saw, let's just say, a life in Egypt or whatever that was happening right now, I am viewing that life in Egypt, but that technically isn't the little blow pop of me here. I am looking at another piece of the oversoul that's going to feel like me because it's the bigger part of me, but it's not me. It really is. Now, there could be a connection of a theme running through different lives where they innervate and, blossoms bloom and whatever. I get all that. But what I'm just trying to say is that, in a sense, I'm trying to get into the technical fact that it isn't you, that, it's not you as the avatar that you currently are having it.
You are accessing that library, and if there's something that needs correction, that it might be affecting you now, either through genetic memory or from the past life, which it does go through the genetic memory all the same. That's why the SSP was able to determine how to situate you based on those other expressions that they were accessing via your own genetic memory. As he says, the amino acids turning into ones and zeros. Now, how is this relevant? It's because they are accessing that same great tree via technology. Just like in your Man in the High Castle, they were accessing the traveling through either energetics or technology. That was depicted correctly, 100%. Via the programs, like they had their big portal, and or via just slipping or time slipping to different world lines. That is actually possible to do, but they've abused it. But the point is, what do you need to access in the here and now? And what is pertinent to what you came in to do? And what is to be left alone?
And I agree. So that's part of this conversation.
And the reason you're curious about something, the reason that you love something or a time frame is because you are actually existing there. Yes.
Well, and I agree with everything you're saying, but it seems to me that it is, and I realize things can interfere from one to another. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if you are accessing, or if somebody is telling you about a quote, it's not the right term anymore, past life, and you are an asshole. Let's just say you're an asshole. Well, then it's like, in my mind, it's like, wow, that my oversoul decided to have an experience as an asshole. Not me. I'm sitting right here in this expression, but my oversoul decided to have this assholeless experience, but it's happening right now, and it isn't the oversoul part. Yes, it's me, but technically it's not me. It's another piece of the oversoul, because I'm only a little piece of the oversoul here. So I'm not in both places in that sense. So we can wordsmith this to death. Yes. But what I'm saying is that forget the fact that I am part of an oversoul. I am a piece of the oversoul having an experience here. Just like that is a piece of the oversoul having an experience over there. We can meet at the library. We can see, everybody else's experiences because we have access to it all. But it's a piece of it over there, and I'm a piece of it over here. What we have to look for is, where is there an unhealthy entanglement? And that's the bottom line to it, isn't it?
Yes, wherever there's an unhealthy entanglement, that's where people see that as cycles completing, a karmic hand of karma, things of this nature. Like when he went to Japan to the 47 Ronin, where he resolved the cycle just by walking the grounds. Yes. There's some in England that you'll eventually see. There's some other, you've already resolved some of them in both New England and Jamestown, Yorktown, all of those things too. Just by merely going there. The reason you keep revisiting areas is because you are there. I should say you have been there, but you are there. But this is why you are seeing these things. That's why the government was able to use the Montauk chair. They recognized this simple fact. This is why Pegasus was able to open these doorways, because they recognized this simple fact is that it's a fixed point in multiple time frames and expressions. They were able to understand this. This is why you saw in your Back to the Future where Marty went back to back in time, and he was in the same area each time, because that's where sometimes certain intersections and portals access, and then you become the center of a time event by which things change around, like in your Flash, where he became this time event. Things like this happen to where then you're off on a different branch, or you switch some things slightly. It's not that fragile like they showed in the Flash, or in Marvel where it's an incursion from time to time frame. That's more cinema at that point. But can you take the way you're perceiving reality into another reality? And you're starting to push that perception like some ghosts do. They will think they won't believe they're dead, and they're still experiencing whatever they happen to be going through. And he saw an old woman ghost the other day where she was in an unfamiliar bathroom to that of the person he was speaking to, the client, because that woman had died of a sickness inside of a bathroom, but did not know she was dead, therefore perceiving that reality of the last moments, or I should say last moments. But because everyone's creator beings, they tend to do this. That's why some don't know they've died. Where something's traumatic, and they'll delete that portion of that trauma because they suppress it. The energy suppresses it, and they've blown that shard a little bit. That's what a ghost is. So, with that said, like what Thorsten told him, not all horrors need an audience. This goes into your SSP. Yes, are they doing great things in that community? Yes, should some of them be talking about it to bring out these memories? Because yes, that's what they're meant to do. But it doesn't mean that you always have to trade war stories in order to bring that about either. It's just like some of the things that I went through on Earth. Did I need to put people through that? No. Uh, Even though I did to an extent with the alcoholism and such. Did I need to relay that horror again? No. Did people need to know what happened? Absolutely. History cannot be forgotten. And is it ever? No. But should it be just wantonly taken away? Absolutely not. But should you constantly regurgitate after a milestone has been accomplished? No.
Right, because then you're just circling the toilet with those energies and you're
Yes.
not progressing.
And you're not progressing or dealing with things. Yes.
You're not at all. And
And
that
I
all,
recognize that a little too late, but yeah.
well, I mean, again, we're only human, and our physical body, souls, and minds sometimes have energies that are so damaging that we try to find a way to cope with them. Unfortunately, for many, it is alcoholism. As you know, my grandfather was the same way. A lot of that generation was exactly the same way. That was the only way in either self-abuse, which I call the alcoholism a self-abuse, or an abuse towards other, to deal with some of those harsh, horrible energies that they were subjected to. Not all. Some people are just psychopaths and like it. Some people just like to drink. I'm not saying that, but for a lot of people, there weren't very many good choices as far as how to deal with those types of energies. So I will
No.
at least give you that.
Mm.
So to be fair, but but again,
When someone sees true evil, that can't be processed very easily.
correct. Which again, bringing that into current present moment, people are facing that right now. A lot of people, I didn't, in fact, that happened this morning where the conversation was, she said, I didn't realize, I knew people were mean. I knew people whatever. I didn't know it was that bad. And she was just really struck. And I said,
Mhm.
and I said, it's because you can't process that what you're seeing is evil.
Yeah, when something people can't process that kind of evil, it's a form of cognitive dissonance, but it's also a form of mental protection as well.
Right.
Because they don't want to know that is a thing. But you must know
Right.
that it is a thing.
So again, if you can at least say it really is, the emperor has no clothes and it really is what it appears to be.
Mm-hmm.
If you can say those things out loud and allow yourself to accept it, you actually can learn to cope within it. It's the suppression of not wanting it to be something that is so in your face what it is, and trying to dance around it or whatever, that causes even more damage to somebody than to just kind of accept the truth as it is, because then you can really face it, deal with it, and then try to, again, co-create a change to it. But a lot of people right now don't want to accept the word evil and evil people in this world right now.
No, and there are monsters. There are literally things that go bump in the night that people would put a gun in their mouth if they knew existed. If they and people don't like hearing this, that they review everything today, that would not be healthy. Granted, are the ones doing the supposed gatekeeping doing it for everyone's highest good? No. But there is something to be said about knowing how to divvy it up or delegate it to where it's digestible. But there's also something to be said about Band-Aid rip when the time is right, too, where people just have to move forward. There are those times. You're seeing a mixture of both currently.
Right. I agree with you 1,000,000,000% on what you just spoke about. Absolutely. And I think, again, this goes to the concept again of where I know I personally have a problem. I am so not a fan of somebody who has the ability to look into somebody's, file cabinet and just arbitrarily tell them stories, about lives that, again, doors that do not need to be open. They have nothing, because what we're talking about, just like you're saying with ghosts that are bringing in an energy that isn't healthy for a moment, when you start peering into some things, especially if there's no entanglement to it and you won't let it go, you do not know, and neither do those seers. I'm sorry, they don't. If you start focusing on it, the energies that are going to come into your arena from that time frame may not be good energies. And now a seer has actually caused you to fantasize about something that is actually going to be very unhealthy for you now and cause some energies that should not be there. So it really is a caution. You should only be looking at things if you have the skill to see where the entanglement
And where the
needs to be
entanglement,
dealt with
where the
now.
entanglement needs to be dealt with. And it doesn't matter if you portray that persona in this life, the good aspects of it, because if that's part of your real personality, of course you're going to do it. I'm just saying that if it is unnecessary to tap into it, do not. Yes, that is part of the discernment area, discernment. What are you really tapping into and why? And is something trying to get you to do it to bring to rip open an old wound and continue to, you would say, loose that old wound. Excuse me, there is something interfering. Some, let's just say, butthurt tit babies out there want or do not want this conversation had, but also want certain things constantly regurgitated. And this is, excuse me, you can take a step back there, tit baby. Now, yes, I called you this. So, whatever, and I will not name whatever sources that they will just be left a mystery. So, that's nobody's name you know at the moment. Uh, uh, and let's just say they go where nobody knows your name. Okay, goodbye.
Right.
Go back to your bar stool there,
Exactly.
Cliff.
And I have no desire to know. And that's the difference. You have to know when you really don't fall for the hook and you're like, great, don't have any desire. We'll forget about you in 3 seconds.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And you really, really mean it because all you want right now in your life is benevolence for your highest good. You want to heal what needs to be healed. You want to be able to learn to co-create better, to bring in the better energies. And you don't want to be spending too much time trying to entertain yourself on things that potentially would be more harmful to yourself. And this happens a lot, unfortunately, kind of in this community right now, because there really is a lack of understanding of really, and again, even us having this conversation, I know, I'm wise enough to know, it's only the next layer of conversation, but that's the only way we can see
Well,
to do it.
yes,
The
this
next
is
layer.
the next layer. And speaking of those that do not wish you to access certain, or wish you to access certain things, you have to be careful in this, especially now, not just this week from the time of this recording, always. What are you tapping into and why? What are you researching and why? Yes, the information all of you are putting out from GIC to here to all these places, yes, must be spoken about. This is why it's organic. Excuse me, rude. Do not send that energy burst again. Mean it. This is what pisses me off. It's not in whom you are. It's whom is puppeting you. No. Now, with your concern about certain synchronicities he is seeing for your other show. Yes, this is also necessary because he is seeing the overall tapestry of where that information is woven and whom has spoken before, which that is perfectly fine. Where it is not perfectly fine is if you are intruding on the rights films. So it is perfectly fine if you are relaying and showing information. Just know that. But at the same time, excuse me, at the same time, know when you've hit a limit, know, and you would call it, is this the hill you wish to die upon? There are times where that stance is necessary. There are times where it's not. You must judge which is which. Now, with the creatures, we'll say, and I'm not referring to whom you and what you are thinking that I'm referring to. These, and I point this direction because that's where the energy wave's coming from. They're not what you think, and they're not as potent and powerful as they proclaim to be. These are more military forces. This is more of they're more watchdog-ish types. They don't like this talked about, that they want you to access and connect to all things because that's ascension. No. He's seen this weird auto connect that has popped up from time to time. So has your friend David, to where it's automatically connecting. And some others are experiencing this as well, where the nanos and all those other things are actually trying to connect you to where your energy is. So it's a form of a distraction. People think it's an intuitive flow, when in fact true intuition is telling them not to do it and not to go through it. And the bad guys are also, always feels like this altar in the back of him, like behind here, like a voice that's telling him to not interact with a certain person or not to do a certain thing. No, that is not an alarm bell. That is actually oppressive forces doing that, and a part that they've stuck within everybody to not unify. That said, this time frame alone, you must discern what's what. He sees certain things that they do not wish him to see. He sees it with his eyes and with his psionics, which is a great thing. That is actually highly encouraged, very encouraged. What is not encouraged is a superior standpoint because you feel, or one feels, that the others that have not yet done so are somehow a problem. Yes, there's that Matrix quote, they are so inured with the system that they will fight to protect it. That still is true. But the statement after that is what the Wachowski brothers wanted to try to, or that was the yield that they put in there. And the next statement was, and that makes them our enemy. If you watch the movie again, that was the yield in play. Excuse? Keep that in your hands to yourself, whatever that is. Now, they can shape psionic fields into other shapes, like with Green Lantern, by the way. So if you think there's some weird, creepy thing, that's their own mind doing that. And that's that energy field doing that. But anyway, I'll make this quick. Yes, there's multitudes of stupid out there. Absolutely no question. And do all people walk in the sunlight with you? No. Are they here to do that? No. Are there stupid, as he says, retarded people? Absolutely. Even without the oppression, you have that. I am not joking. And evil people and stupid tend to go hand in hand because some follow, some lead. And they are sheeple. Yes, that is a true statement. Even that was said in your fourth Matrix movie. Are there people that just went along with like your COVID thing? Yes. And does that make some of them guilty? Just like in the Nazi times that happened as well during World War II. World War I, you had this in every era of fighting for any cause. Those that were uncomfortable fighting it, and that would be the whistleblowers turning people in, like your creepy cat lady on the corner turning people in during COVID because they had Thanksgiving dinner. There's always been those people, and they are a royal pain in the ass. Should some of them be slapped? Yes. Should they be put to death for it? No. And that's what some of your community out there is wanting. They're wanting an excuse to go after what they perceive as those that are a problem in society. Now, are there those that are real problems that are pulling these strings? Absolutely. Those are the ones you aim at. That's the evil. That's where evil lives. But, and also like in World War II, would people be judged just like with the Nuremberg trials? Those that follow the orders? Absolutely. That applies to military factions. That doesn't always apply to regular people. If you were to judge them based on that, you would have very few people on this planet that weren't actually doing any of that. I'm just putting that out there.
No, I completely agree. I think, again, you want to aim for where is it really coming
big
from,
cheese,
not the
basically.
recipients who are reacting to it.
Not the recipient cheese, like you always say, the cheese concept where beings come in and arrest other beings for intruding on your position. I'm talking about big cheese, the big kahuna. That's who
Right.
you want to topple. By all means, aim for that, and whether it takes the form of co-creative psionics or if it takes the co-creation of a gun or a sword, it does not matter. That is the manifestation of that intention. Both sides are needed, warrior and other. You're all warriors in this respect.
Right, which is why I like the person today, bringing that, even, agreeing to it, because I think her recognition is that there is a greater evil. Again, rather than the everyday person, something much more bigger behind the scenes, doing something that people are becoming victimized. That's how I read her energy, which was, again, a very hard concept that is very real to wrap your mind around, that it really can be that way, but it is that way. And so it's one of those things, if you can say it, if you can let your mind wrap around it, then you know where to focus. And that's what's really, really important.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. It has to be focused on the correct target. Yes, is it proper to be mad at somebody that's actually turned a bunch of people in and they've caved to evil? Oh, of course. Oh, of course,
Right.
it's healthy. You would be unhealthy not to be mad at them.
But it doesn't end unless you aim at the right place.
Yes,
And that's the
it
point.
does not end. There's always somebody in the back of the crowd. Who's with me on this? Who wants to not do this? Who wants to? There's always going to be that guy. There's always going to be kill him or let's not fight this. There's always going to be those people. Has been since the dawn of time. It doesn't matter how far back you go, even during World War II, there were those people saying, let's not do this. We don't care about this. And then there's the ones that overcompensated as well. And those listening to what I'm saying is within amidst of the Mickey Mouse bullshit, there's a ton of overcompensating going on there. Let's just put it that way, and you guys know exactly who I'm referring to. Even if he does not have the contextual knowledge, the ones listening back there know whom I'm referring to. All right.
You must have made yourself well known, though, because I must admit, when you made that statement that the military factions would be held accountable for knowingly participating, this not civilians, but the military, that side quieted down. So you must have made an impact in that statement.
Yes, because they know I'm correct, because you have contracts that are dissolving right now. And if they don't quit with the crap, they know if they keep pushing it, they're going to be under more of a Nuremberg type of situation.
Or now they know.
Or now they know, or they will be drumheaded, and I'm not held, nobody else is held responsible for what happens next.
No, I'm just saying, because I actually did notice. I found that was interesting.
Because they would not stop intruding on the space, and therefore
You
they had to be
inform them of
schooled.
the consequence, yeah.
Yeah, they have to know there's a consequence in there, just like a child that has to have a consequence for ill actions. You are dealing with people that have no oversight committees, no checks and balances. They must be told that there is a checks and balances. They must be told there is punishment for and cause and effect. You would call it karma, but that is up to people in this realm to enact that. That is, and change those rules.
Right, and you're not going to be able to fluff that off to another aspect of your.
Oh, no. This is in the here and now.
Current
Even
moment.
even though everything else is current present moment, I'm
Right.
just saying before
Right.
somebody's a smart ass like the big redhead over there. I'm just saying before he's going, hey, this. I'm pointing this direction because that's where they came from. They had to be told that there is a consequence for this, and I highly recommend in situations like that, and you encounter them in abduction scenarios, everything, you inform them that there are consequences for these actions.
Here and now consequences.
Here and now consequences.
Because it is happening. I think it's the one thing that we're just not alluded to, but to say that it is happening. The here and now consequences are beginning to take a hold because the contractual agreements are being upheld. And whether another human wants it to be that way or not, the community as a whole is enforcing it. And so, sorry,
Mhm.
you know?
Yes, and by informing like this, Spirit now has a shoe in to actually point. I'm pointing that way because you have a military structure that direction that is doing some of this to you.
Mhm.
They're out of phase. You know about the out of phase soldiers, and some of them, the ones that we laughed and other military laughed at the hardest, were the ones he dubbed the bedbug faction, because they were stealing genetic samples from people he knew, and they decided to take bed bugs that were robotic and steal samples from the bottoms of the feet. And they knew if they were caught, there was dire consequences. They were caught, therefore, in the record, they were known as the bedbug faction. Other people on your side will say they have never laughed the hardest as they did over that, because they got to put that down in the record. And others you ran across that they put weird nicknames for. This is why they love it. They love that. They love that back and forth. They love it. But keep doing that if you come up with a creepy nickname for somebody, because they will stamp that in a record somewhere. They love it. They find that entirely like liberating and funny. So they get that childlike creativity comes out when they do that. When they actually get to do that, they're like, hmm. But when that was the one that had them all going, because it labeled, like in a RICO case, it labeled an entire group with that name. So every person every person in that group got that stamped in their permanent record. So that's what got them got them rolling. You do have allies on your side. They can't always be around you, but Spirit can. I'm just saying this in times where you can't hear them. We hear you. Always hear you. And the fact that I would, in this form, would have been mad at them too, those others. I would have been very angry. He recalls a time at your home in Arizona where somebody interrupted, by constantly banging on the side of the house and everything. And I came through at that time to spook the person off because they were providing too big of a distraction. They were delivering a package, so this person saw me, not him. And I was not. I was a little miffed at the man, but I was even more miffed at those that were like that. That was aiming this direction, because that's who was doing it. Was a similar faction. So that's who I was more angry at, and that's who I pointed at them. And that Spirit is going to. The Spirit doesn't exactly enact judgment, but it doesn't let people circle the toilet either, and doesn't allow people to be constantly uh, closing the toilet bowl on people and flushing them down the drain either. The people say this is a universal law. There really isn't completely such a thing, because there's everything everywhere happening all at once, including those shitheads. So it is more the laws of nature and balance. It is more of a grounding. It is more of a returning to a point, moving back to an origin point of balance, or like an audit of an oversoul, like you saw in Everything Everywhere All at Once. They were auditing two oversouls. One wanted to uncreate, one wanted to recreate. That's what was going on. It ended up auditing both sides. That's what's actually going on right now. And if people are constantly bucking that in a bad way, then there's actually consequences for that. The Void knows this, the MTTF knows this, Spirit knows this. All are working as one. The tree, Great Exegetical Tree, knows this. All of them know this. This is why the Void puts out bounties at times for those that are the biggest pain in the ass. This is why you have your Time Core. They even though they were the times having a god complex, snipping timelines like you saw with the Loki series. But these things are all correctable because the Void wouldn't allow that. That means Spirit was intertwined with it. And I'm not going to go into logistics. Just know that there are darker forces that are split off at times that are on notice. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew this.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, I appreciate this next onion layer of discussion. So any final thoughts for this show?
No, this would be exactly where I am at with this information. The reason it was so difficult for you to weed through things in the beginning, and then why he saw everyone surrounding, is because of what was going on here. Because despite your best efforts to be random and have a conversation on the whim or impromptu, it doesn't mean that you don't have listeners from time to time, that those you don't want in your listening studio audience. Uh, so just know that, and that you have other allies that are working in the periphery and the same types of frequencies combating. You have also militaristic ones that are on your side, not just the Mozen or the ones that call them Mozen. You have actual armed forces ones as well. You have not everything's an evil in these projects, and you have people from other worlds, and you have spirit. So,
Well, I would just ask, and again, this is just deviating just one quick second, so
Mhm.
if you don't mind making this answer brief.
Mhm.
Weirdest thing happened not too long ago. There's some people that are thinking the Mosen are demon-like. What's that about?
that's a perception. Because they will sometimes wear masks to make themselves look this way. There are military factions that sometimes will upload their people into demon bodies, and yes, those are physical bodies, even though they look non-corporeal. There are some, like certain ghouls, that he noticed in the SSP, where he noticed somebody was downloaded into a ghoul body and actually was acting as a haunting in a house, where they were actually a watcher for a couple that was a fake couple, like in your Resident Evil movie, where there was a fake couple that was overseeing an area. They were actually watchers for a neighborhood, and the haunting was actually one of the operatives. Your Nigel Roberts and them wear these ghoul masks, and uh, uh, all the Rick Carsons were doing in that recording was saying they portray themselves as demons from time to time, in order sometimes to get you to discern. Sometimes it's a joke. Sometimes it's a form of trying to get you to notice something, or they're blockading something that was worse, and they figured they would jump scare you with the other thing. Nigel loves the jump scare stuff, like how he jumps out at Punky in there.
Mhm.
Nigel will do that to you guys from time to time. So just watch. They like wearing the mask. The Ricarsons were actually not saying they were real demons in that recording. They were saying they basically portray them. Oh, they hunt us. They hunt us. It was more in quotes. It was more like they're demons. They hunt us. Ha 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 ha. And they chase us down, ha ha ha. And because sometimes, like any other person, they see someone coming that even though they're an ally, they sometimes you'll have some creepy person out in a dark street wearing a clown mask and a chainsaw, and they want to scare people. Nigel's one of those types. Let's just put it that way. And those guys in the mask, they are a special kind of warped in that area. What's the term that you use? They're not wrapped too tight.
Mhm.
Their bolts aren't completely tightened, that kind of thing. Oh, that actually would denote they're dumb. No, I'm just saying they're not wrapped too tight. They love practical jump scares, and the Ricarsons were basically telling you some of the demon occurrences were them, because they wear like he saw in the Stick Village incident at the hotel, where the Velodians were showing you Nigel Roberts' crew burning the Stick Village. They were all wearing ghoul masks, because they can do the out of phase thing like the other soldiers and go boogity 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 boogity. They do this to people in order to spook them enough so they look around at what's around them. If they're noticing that, which he makes it quite noticeable, a little bit overcompensation on his part, actually. But kidding. But with this, they do this so that you actively start looking. So they go boogity boogie boogie. Or they do it to a bad guy that would happen to be in a primitive village and thought they were looking at a demon. And that's what that Stick Village thing was about. It was a warlord they were shown they were taking down. That's why you guys were laughing at it, because that particular creature that was there, you guys actually did help apprehend, and I will say no more on that. Because you don't know the identity of that person. Just know you helped shut down an operation there that needed to be shut down, as kind of your cheese moment. Nigel, as unfair as some of these things seem, you know him quite well. So, and that's not in another expression either. So he likes to call them the Dread Pirate Roberts, or the Isle of Misfit Toys, or the Ungentleman Warfare Group, or whatever. but no, they are getting things done, and that some of the occurrences where you're seeing boogity, boogity, boogity have been him. Isaac did his fair share while here as well, where he'd go, from time to time. But the Recarsons were just going, they're demons. Oh my God. That was sarcasm. Uh, just they don't always sound like they're saying it. Sometimes they go, oh my God, but they're actually trying to interface with you and say something sarcastic, and it doesn't always come out right. So Dash, you ran into a Recarson named Dash there, or calls himself that to the young boy you were talking to. The he was the one on the recording you heard. So that was actually not basically saying Nigel was goofing off.
Okay.
Which he's quite good at that. He loves the jump scare. So now that I've told you this, look out for him. When his people appear as like these ghoulish figures, they have this weird fakish like energy around them, and you'll actually see the mask line under here where you can just pull it off. But yes, I'm ending all your fun. Yes. Uh, when the other person is not laughing, it tends to not be funny anymore, even though your work is quite hilarious, I must say. And it does a lot of good. So I will actually take a step back. Yeah, nice try. Nice try. Uh-huh. Yeah, there we go. If you're seeing these weird images of like weird spiders and stuff like that in your head, it's one of them using their psionic field to do this from time to time. And if you're laying in bed sometime and kind of feel bugs crawling on you, he tends to find that funny. Just saying. I guess I gave away some of your stuff. Okay. All right. I will take my leave now. Thank you. Uh, I will return. All right. Yeah, I could hear Nigel going, "You spoil all my fun." But well, there went the screen again. There we go. But yeah, from time to time, and he's right. In that vision sequence, we were watching from a drone perspective on a screen with other military people. Joanna was laughing, I was laughing, and they were burning this, looked like this jungle stick village. And I knew they were busting somebody. And what we mean by cheese is sometimes something is allowed to show up so other forces can grab it and arrest it and strip them of their contracts. And that's how apparently we've been doing this for quite some time to different groups. I'm in favor of getting rid of those nasty groups. I'm one of those that complaineth the loudest when it comes to the cheese concept because it hurts. So if anybody's experienced that where something just keeps happening and then other groups are apprehending, let me know or let us know. But we've encountered that quite often. That's what we call the cheese. And we don't
Boots on the ground.
and the boots on the ground. Yeah. So
You may be doing a lot more work than you think you are.
you're doing a lot of work in dreams that you don't know about too, folks. You're actually correcting some things out there you don't even realize, and you're sometimes getting the blowback from that. And man, that screen's really active today, or the camera's really active today. No, you didn't do it, Nigel. I can see you over there. Okay. He's like, okay. Take the ghoul mask off. There we go. It's like, okay, bank robber, like you see at the beginning of Dark Knight, where they're wearing the clown masks, and you're seeing a bank robber wearing some creepy mask, like Ronald Reagan or Richard Nixon or something. That's them. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing right there. So, like you see the Joker with the, yeah. Except we're not insane. That's actually a matter of debate. I heard from another, I heard my grandfather say that's a matter of debate. But okay, apparently they knew each other because we act like we know this man so quite well. So he acts like a Mosen guide, but all these beings we seem to have known from somewhere, and in this expression, not just elsewhere. So if anybody else is also having that kind of interaction, let us know. But in the comments. So, Joanna, do you have anything else you want to add? Okay.
I enjoyed it.
Nigel, you can talk on another one. Okay. So, well, you weren't going to talk today anyway. Okay. All right. You're there as the moral support person. Okay. All right. All right. Now this comes to a part where I'm saying I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas at this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye bye now.